The way in which PNS can be classified. PNS can be classified in three ways. First, on the basis of where they enter or exit the central nervous system. 2, on the basis of function, that is whether they are sensory or motor. And 3, on the basis of how fast they conduct the neural impulse. Now, based on the point of entry, especially in the case of humans, there are 43 pairs of nerves. Of the 43 pairs of nerves in the peripheral nervous system, 31 pairs enter the central nervous system below the neck along the various levels of the spinal cord. These 31 nerves are the spinal nerves. The other 12 pairs enter the brain directly and they are known as the cranial nerves. Now, based on functionally there are two categories of neurons in the peripheral nervous system, the sensory and the motor. But there are three types of nerves, sensory, motor and mixed. Sensory nerves contain only sensory neurons and motor nerves contain only motor neurons. These two types of nerves are found only among the 12 cranial nerves. So in the next slide, as you can see, the sensory nerves are the olfactory, optic and auditory. And the motor nerves are the oculomotor, trochlear, abducens, spinal accessory and hypoglossal. Now all the spinal nerves, remember the spinal nerves are 31 in number, and the four other cranial nerves, the trigeminal, glossopharyngeal, vagus and facial, contain both sensory and motor neurons and therefore they are called the mixed nerves. In the next 3 slides, you can find the different cranial nerves and their distribution and functions. Now let's study the various cranial nerves in detail. Let's start with the olfactory nerve. Olfactory nerve, as you all know, it is concerned with the odor or smell. The odor molecules come into the nose and the filaments of the olfactory nerve picks it up. The optic nerves, they are just the sensory nerves of vision. They lead up to the optic chiasma, that is the crossing, and carry information all the way to the occipital lobe. The oculomotor, that is the third cranial nerve, the trochlea, the 4, and abducens, the 6. These nerves can be grouped together because these are all the ones that move your eyeball. So remember 3, 4 and 6. Skip 5. All innervate the muscles that move your eyeballs. The trigeminal nerve, that is nerve 5, splits into 3 major branches after the trigeminal ganglion and has the ophthalmic, maxillary and mandibular divisions. The motor function is for the muscles of mastication. The sensory function is for the face as well as for the gums and teeth. Understand that dentists inject anesthetics into branches of this nerve to numb the gums and teeth. And during a root canal, it's these nerves that are removed. The facial nerves innervate the muscles of facial expression. An easy way to remember what the 5 branches of this nerve are called is to put your hand over the face and it correlates to the same muscles. The vestibulocochlear nerve is a sensory nerve of hearing and balance. The vestibular apparatus or the cochlea is seen in the slide as blue in color. The coiled up part is a hearing part protected by the bone. The glossopharyngeal nerve innervates structures of the tongue, that is glosso, and pharynx, pharyngeal means to swallow, and provides somatic, motor and taste respectively. The vagus nerve, it's a mixed sensory and motor nerve. It is a wanderer. It wanders into the thorax and abdomen, and it is in the parasympathetic division. It is concerned with the innervation of organs. Next is the spinal accessory nerve, which innervates the neck muscles. The hypoglossal nerve, it runs inferior to the tongue and innervates the tongue muscles. Now we have covered all these 12 cranial nerves. Now let's move on to the spinal nerves. The spinal nerves are divided into 4 groups depending on the way they connect with the spinal cord. Thus we come across the cervical, thoracic, lumbar and sacral nerves. For example, you can just think of your spine. Your spine has 4 curves and it is divided into 5 regions based on where the curves occur. These regions are the cervical, that is the neck, thoracic, which corresponds to the chest or the trunk, lumbar, which is the low back, sacral, which is the pelvis, and the coccygeal, which is the tailbone. Each region of the spine has a specific function and a different number of vertebrae. The first curve of the spine, which begins at the bottom of the skull, it is the cervical region and has 7 vertebrae and is responsible for supporting the head. The next curve starts at the thoracic region, which protects 2 of your most important organs, the heart and the lungs. The 12 thoracic vertebrae have ribs branching off on either side that curve around the front of your body to form a protective cage around your lungs and the heart. The next curve starts at the lumbar region, which has 5 vertebrae and is responsible for bearing the weight of the upper body, which is why the lumbar vertebrae are the largest vertebrae. The sacral region has 5 vertebrae that are fused together, and the last region, the coccygeal, it started out as 4 tiny bones in children and then later it was fused into a single bone which we call as a tailbone. The spinal nerves have the same names as the region of the spine that they come out of and mostly serve the same portions of the body. As we have already seen, another way of classifying the nerves in the peripheral nervous system is on the basis of the speed of conduction. So, the sensory and motor neurons of the spinal nerves can be classified in terms of speed of conduction. Individual neurons of the spinal nerves vary in diameter. The larger the diameter, the faster the conduction. The fastest neurons are type A fibers. They conduct impulses at up to 90 meters per second and they are largest in diameter, that is from 11 to 20 microns. The type B fibers, which are 5 to 10 microns, are found chiefly in the autonomic nervous system and conduct impulses at the rate of 10 to 20 meters per second. The slowest are the type C fibers, that is from 0.5 to 4 microns. They conduct impulses at the rate of 1 or 2 meters per second.